is Cole about to make you a Kevin Concepcion fan? He's about to make you a Kevin Concepcion fan. While he's not number one in the regular transfer portal ratings, KC Concepcion is my go-to guy. This is the number one player I would want on my team. He is a difference maker at wide receiver, as evident by his freshman year at NC State. A little bit of a rocky sophomore slump, but we all go through those trialing times. If you need a number one playmaker for your emerging quarterback, KC Concepcion is the guy that you go after. And an SEC school is going to get very lucky. Who are the teams that should be targeting him, and what is the best fit for him moving forward? What's going on, SEC Unfiltered family? It's Cole Thompson here. Make sure that you like the video, hit that ring notification down below, and smash subscribe, because we talk college football every single day. Transfer portal, NIL rankings, college football playoffs, coaching searches. So if that's what you love, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Follow us on the socials, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at SEC Unfiltered. Follow me at Mr. Cole Thompson. That way the back and forth banner can continue to go along. Download the podcast version of the show and check out all of our great work found at SECUnfiltered.com. This episode is brought to you by our friends over at GameTime. Download the GameTime app and use the promo code SECU for $20 off your first purchase. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not just for college football. This is for college basketball. This is for the NBA. This is for the NFL. This is for a concert that's coming to your town. You got a favorite comedian coming on by? Why not go to the GameTime app, use the promo code SECU, $20 off your first purchase. KC Concepcion, Kevin Concepcion, however you want to call it, dude is a difference maker. And I know you can look at last season and go, how can you justifiably say that? Because I go back to what he did when he was a freshman out in Raleigh, North Carolina. 839 receiving yards, 71 catches, 11.8 yards per play, 10 total touchdowns. In 2 years, he has over 1,200 yards, over 124 catches, and 16 scores. By the way, let me also just remind you, nobody was going to have success in this offense last year, especially when Grayson McCall went down. Things went dark out in Raleigh, North Carolina, and it was very clear from the very beginning of the year that it was not going to get any better. You throw in his rushing attack, he is a weapon. Put him in the slot, put him on the outside, let him utilize his pristine route running skills, and I promise you, you got yourself a bona fide setup. I don't like doing this. I don't like mentioning this part because then I'm going to be on Old Takes Exposed. But I'm okay because I feel so confident in Kevin Concepcion being that dude. He's him, that the team that lands KC Concepcion in 2025 will be going to the college football playoff. I don't like making bold claims. I don't like being that person. But if that's what's going to sell you on this man being on your team, being your future number one receiver, by all means, let me be the reason why his stock continues to climb. There are schools interested in him. According to On3's Pete Nakos, you got 6 visits lined up. He's got a visit with Colorado. He's got a visit with Florida State. He's got a visit with Miami. And then he also has visits with 3 other SEC schools. But real quickly, I want to bring up 2 names that I think should at least make an offer. Might be too late, but never say never. Ole Miss is number 1. I want to prove a concept if I'm going in the transfer portal. I want to know that whenever I land at the next location, I got a quarterback, and I know that I'm going to be better because of it. Trent Harris got better when he left Louisiana Tech and headed on down to Hotty Toddy Land. You watch as Caden Priestcorn got better as he left Memphis and headed on down to Oxford. You got a number 1 wide receiver in the making in Caden Lee, or maybe he's a number 2 receiver and you need a number 1. You also got a quarterback. We haven't seen a lot of Austin Simmons, but what we have seen is very promising. That one drive was the difference on keeping momentum in favor of the Rebels against Georgia in their own backyard when Jackson Dart had a hightailed on out of there. So there's already an ideology that transfers work there. Number 2, I go Florida. You got a quarterback. You got a guy that's going to be a difference maker and probably leading your team to a college football playoff appearance if you build around him. And they have a wide receiver too in Aiden Mizell. And they have a good run game with Jaden Baugh. And they have TJ Lagway that absolutely every single transfer portal wide receiver should want to play with. I believe that even with that tough schedule, what they're going to be able to do by bringing in the right names around him is beneficial to Lagway's growth. And it's really beneficial for a guy like Billy Napier, who still is off the hot seat, but isn't completely ready to go ahead and say he's secure for 2026 and get a new contract extension. But those are 2 teams that I at least think need to make a phone call. I don't think that they will. Let's start off with number 3. It's Texas A&M. Texas A&M is going to be a player at wide receiver. They have to be a player. You have Noah Thomas. That's really good. You got 2 young guys in Terry Bussey and Isaiah Williams. That's about it. You're going to lose some names. Janae Walker's no longer going to be there. Cyrus Allen entered the transfer portal. Micah T's entered the transfer portal. So you got to bring in a difference maker to build around Marcel Reed or Jacob Zeno, who just recently committed. Regardless, I do believe that this is what we're talking about with a number 1 and Swiss Army knife mentality. Who is one of the best wide receivers that we watched come through College Station in the last 15 years? It's Anaya Smith. Anaya Smith was everywhere, and he did everything. Lined up at running back, lined up in the slot, lined up on the outside, was special on special teams, was not afraid to go ahead and tuck and run. He even wound up in a little bit of a wildcat. He did it all. And Mike Elko is going to be a defensive-led team as long as he's in College Station. The Maroon Goons and the Wrecking Crew D are going to be the emphasis. But you got to have some dudes for Marcel Reed to be able to fly. It's like what Terry said in the other guys. I'm a peacock. You got to let me fly. You got to let Marcel Reed fly and uncork some balls deep downfield. A guy like KC Concepcion can be that player. You're going to go after Micah Hudson, the 5-star wide receiver from Texas Tech. You're going after Jonte Cook, the former Texas receiver. I think they're going to be in the market for at least one other guy. KC Concepcion, I think, has got to be at the forefront of that list. Number 2, and this is probably the runner-up. I would love to see him there, but I think it's South Carolina. There's a visit planned already in the coming weeks. With South Carolina, there's a couple of things you got to know. Number 1, he's 123 miles from home. Grew up in Charlotte. So proximity-wise, family gets to come see him. He gets to be in the SEC. He gets to be at a program that is starting to gain momentum. Number 2, he is the dude. I love Mazeo Bennett. I love Nick Harbor. I think both of them can be difference makers at their own capacity. And in the style of offense that they're going to run underneath new offense coordinator Mike Shula, they each have a designed role. But I want that dude that's going to take the underneath stuff and turn it into 25-yard gains. I want that dude that can be vertical, but he wins with route running first. This was a top 10 wide receiver for me going into 2024. That's how much I loved Kevin Concepcion. And you imagine him now playing with Lenore Sellers. And you imagine him with the emphasis still being on the ground game. And you add in an extra running back. I know that you have Howell, but I still think that you want to bring in at least one other name. Maybe Rocket Sanders comes back. I highly doubt it. But you got a quarterback. You got 2 incredible wide receivers that he already has a relationship with. And now you add in your X factor. Think of it like this. When Ole Miss added in Trey Harris in 2022, things switched for Jackson Dart. He immediately found his number 1 target. Everyone else filed on in as complementary pieces, and they went 11-2. They won a Peach Bowl, and they would have been in a 12-team college football playoff. Shane Beamer is that guy. Shane Beamer has those vibes. Shane Beamer can sell me on anything. He can sell me to walk off a cliff, and I'll say, sir, how high do I need to jump? I think he would be a phenomenal fit for this offense. That is your alpha. That is your go-to. That is a difference maker from inside the 20 that can allow you to extend plays vertically. It can allow you to show off the cannon that Lenore Sellers had. I'll tell you what, if you add him in, it's just an awesome feel because of NC State. North Carolina said goodbye. He's head on down south to SEC country. But number 1, and I think this is probably the most consistent fit what many people are saying right now, I also believe this, it's Alabama. Timeout, pause. I'm a Bama grad. We all know this. Everyone understands I am a Bama grad. This has nothing to do with this. This has everything to do with proof of concept of wide receivers. What do we know about Kalen DeBoer's offense in year 2? When he was in his second year at Fresno State, he had 3 receivers go for over 800 yards. What do we know about his second year at Washington? He had 2 receivers go for over 1,000 yards, and Jalen McMillan would have probably gone for over 1,000 yards if he didn't miss some games. You had Jeremy Bernard as a quality number 4. So now you have Ryan Williams coming back. You potentially have Jeremy Bernard coming back. You're going to bring in one other transfer. You had 2 newcomers that were both 4 stars in your latest recruiting class. You still have Tyler May, the white dude. I'm blanking on his name off the top of my head. He can play in your slot. You have 4 guys that can all be difference makers, but none of them, I think, can be a complementary piece to Ryan Williams the way that KC Concepcion can. There's a proof of concept that when you run a style of offense headlined by Kalen DeBoer that wants to get vertical, can attack the intermediate part of the field, relies heavily on route running, consistency, and 50-50 balls, turning more so into 80-20, that you need wide receivers that fit that brand. And I look at the way that he plays the game, I look very similar to how Jalen McMillan plays. Great route runner, good in the open field, going to make some cuts, going to slice and dice you apart, and he's going to be piling it on him for 6 points. They need that guy. For whoever is the quarterback, Jalen Milroe, if you go ahead and run it back with Austin Mack, if you go with Keelan Russell, whoever is that guy in 2024-5, they need a consistent number 2, opposite of Ryan Williams, who will no longer be 17 years old. You want to keep pace with everybody else in the conference. And by the way, boosters are going to spend money. They're not going to sit by idly and be okay going 9-3, 10-3 with a bowl victory and finishing outside the top 12 in the college football playoff rankings. They're going to build. They're going to add. They have another top-tier recruiting class coming on in. But this just feels like the cherry on top of what would have been a very secure offseason out in Tuscaloosa for a guy in Kalen DeBoer. There's proof of concept there. I think it makes the most sense for him to be a part of this system. You take a little bit of pressure off of Ryan Williams. You take some pressure off of yourself because they have a Ryan Williams there, and just allow your skill set to thrive, prosper, and reach new heights in Bryant-Denny Stadium. But let me know in the comment section down below. South Carolina, Texas A&M, and Alabama are the favorites. Which one do you think lands my go-to wide receiver in the transfer portal? Does he stay in the SEC country? Like, rate, review, subscribe. Make sure that you're following us on all the social channels, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at SEC Unfiltered. Download the podcast version of the show to get all of our great work found at secunfiltered.com. Until next time, folks, I am Cole Thompson. Peace.